Hi and hello, and how are you? And how are you? Thank you. My name Mohanna. Today, me talk about things to watch out in convos. Convos is a short for conversations. Now let's get a little bit serious. Now, why do I think I have enough experience to talk about this? Because I have made tons, tons, and tons and tons of mistakes. Tons of mistakes when it comes to holding conversations, whether it was my uh, students, me not being able to hold an educational, well structured, positive, pleasurable conversations with my students, whether it was with my employer, my peers, my colleagues, everybody, house peers, my brothers, my siblings, my sisters, everybody. I was making tons of mistakes, but once I was able to fix them, I enjoy having conversations now. I enjoy it so much that I speak to myself on the camera and I critique myself every now and then. Wait a second. Therefore, I feel like I can hold on a good conversation as far as as far as I believe. So I will put it in order. All right. Okay, sorry for the cutoff, but I had to not waste your time any longer. Unless my time is, I'm already wasting your time by making you watch the video, then that's up to you, not up to me. You're wasting your time. Anyways, so when you want to hold or continue in a conversation or even initiate a conversation, there are things that you need to keep in mind. If one of these things do not match the conversation the way how it vibes, then you're at a loss and you're just gonna mess everything up piece by piece. So the first thing says even playing field. By even, I mean as in you both get to agree on the same concept that you want to either destroy each other, improve each other, have a constructive conversation or a destructive conversation. Whatever that you two with whatever that you and the other side wants to have, whether it's two people, three people, the whole audience. I've had that as a teacher. Sometimes the students could disagree with me. It's okay. It's fine. The point of the teacher, here's the thing. It's not the teacher that makes the student. That's so bad. That's a bad ideology. It's the student that makes the teacher. Why would I say this? Because it doesn't matter how much effort the teacher puts in if the student is just not willing to listen and apply what they have learned. You're at a loss. So why would you even try? Hence why I am not a teacher anymore. Because I would like to make myself as myself without having to be too dependent on my students to make sure that, I hold myself accountable. So, even playing field. You and the other side, you need to share the same concepts. We need to find a field where both of you can agree on, right? Second, humility versus authority. This one is extremely sad. When should you practice humility and when should you practice authority? When you're, let's say, at a job interview and the employer talks to you and you know he starts saying whatever, he's trying to make sure to test your intelligence and your personality. You need to then measure, which is something that will only come in with practice. Which is only something that will come in with practice. You need to see when you should apply humility or authority or a mix of both. There was this incident where I was at a job interview at the time and I was too authoritative because I was a school teacher. So I blowed my own bubble. So I went in and the job was decent, was great, and they just put me through so much hassle and they made me spend so much money to be there that I started complaining. Unfortunately, I put my authority figure onto my employer, which is a bad move. You should always practice humility and believe always that the employer or the manager or the CEO or whatever, he's most of the time looking for, he is always 99.99% of the time, they're looking for a win-win situation, but they have to win first, which is fair, you know? You're the owner of the company. You should look for your own benefit, which is fair. So you need to understand when to practice humility and when to practice authority. A student cannot practice authority. A teacher can practice authority. A teacher shouldn't practice humility unless you're like that one unique teacher, which I try to become, but it just too much work for too little of a salary. And as a manager or a CEO or a founder or whatever, you should not practice humility. You should let someone else do it for you. But as an authority figure, you should always practice your authority within reason, of course. We're not into slavery, okay? Number 3, keep an open mind. So there's this thing that I like to do. Just give me a second, please. There's this thing that I enjoy doing, which is being on the side of the devil, which can be very controversial, but this is how I like to carry conversations. It doesn't mean that I am a bad person or an evil person, but sometimes you have to test the other person's intelligence and they're willing to have an open mind. I like to have an open mind. Like this example where I was at a, you know, at a like this small meeting and I was talking to my potential colleagues. They weren't really my colleagues, and they were talking about how that one person, yada yada yada. I can't really give you accurate explanations, but let's say that one person went to prison, and they said that he deserved going to prison because he's a bad human being. And I went in on the side of the devil, and I said, "You believe that, but what if you were in his place, being raised in a bad environment with abusive parents? Would you then think the same way because you were raised by great parents? Maybe it's not his fault. Maybe his situation forced him to. He had to make some bread for his parents, for his family." And they will be like, "But he doesn't have to raise a family. He shouldn't have been married in the first place." Well, that's not how life works, is it? So, being having an open mind by practicing, for me personally, being on the side of the devil can make conversations extremely interesting, yet a little bit stressful if you go too far, which is something that I'm prone to do every now and then. It's extremely entertaining, you know. I will add a little bit more, so bear with me. Okay, so number 4, conversations or holding a conversation is about emotion. Let's say that you want to impress an employer or you want to impress the other side. Holding the conversation, making it intelligent is good. You're already doing like 30 to 40% of the work, but the rest of the percentage lies in the emotional aspect of any conversation. So let's say that you're with your friends and you talk about how that one time you went outside and you had a wrestle with the bear, and Habib comes in out of nowhere and he wrestles the bear with you. And then John Cena said, "You can't see me, my time is now, now." And then he jumps over you and he kills you, but you can't see him because he does this. So when you talk like that and you just make it sound like intelligent and funny, people will remember you a lot longer and they will remember the conversation. And when they don't, they will know that you made them feel good. You made their emotions all over the place. They just get excited. So it's just interesting. There was this one time, right? I was playing football with my students, which is something that I regret, unfortunately. Just a second. Which is something that I regret because we got beat hard and I wasn't ready, unfortunately, but it is what it is. A loss is a loss. And I tackled one of the students, and because I wasn't wearing the right type of pants, my skin ripped like if there is this beast that clawed leg. So I went back home. I showed them the scar because the scar is still here, isn't it? It disappeared, but it was so good. It looked so good. It looked like I was attacked by some type of monster. And I just told them basically BS. I was like, there's this situation where I went in with 10 guys and blah, 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 and they hit me and this happened. When in fact, I just was so pissed that I lost in front of my students and I just wanted to break one of their legs. So, yeah, that's one way to make the conversation more exciting. Maybe you can then tell the truth. But sometimes you don't need to tell the truth. People, they don't care. They just want to be entertained in a conversation. Now, that's not something that people will admit, but it is the sad truth. And if it's not something you're ready to hear, then I'm one of the few people who gets to tell you the truth, fortunately. Last but not least, don't include politics, religion, I hope I wrote that correctly, and race. By race, I mean skin color, ethnicity, and all that. Unless it's a special case. So why don't you include politics? Because once you include politics into the conversation, then it's going to be a loss-loss or a lose-lose situation. You don't want to include politics. There's no need to explain it. Some people will understand, and some people who don't, you will understand as life comes by. Religion. You can't talk about religion because no matter how much you speak, if Allah has blinded their eyes and their souls, you can't really save them no matter how much you try. And you can't really talk about religion to an atheist. You can talk about your own religion to someone else and try and force it. You can, include it, but it's just not going to make you look good. The only thing that will make you look good is if you include logic into it and include science. Otherwise, nobody is really going to believe you unless they are religious and they share the same religion as you. Race. Do not include race. Why? Because once you include race, then they're going to think that you're, being negative. Unless your charisma and characteristics, the way how you hold conversations, when you include race into the conversation, you should always and always include race in a good light. For example, the popular one, we say always Asians are good workers. They're good with calculators, even though they're really short and tiny and weak. That's just the way how I speak about it right now. I feel like I'm doing myself a disservice, but you could take me as a life example. But on the other hand, when we say, oh my God, black people, they're the athletes of the world. They're flippin' hilarious. Didn't you see Kevin Hart? You see what I mean? When you make it positive, you should always make it positive. And when you want to make fun of a person, okay, I killed the bug. When you want to make fun of a person or insult him directly, you should maybe you should include race. So, for example, let's say I go to one of my friends and he's Asian, flat nose and all that, and then I tell him, man, how come you don't know what 6 multiplied by 6 is equal to? I thought you're Asian. Then it becomes like a low blow compliment, but it's a good compliment. Unlike if you say, man, can't you see? It's because of your squinty eyes. Then you're gonna sound like a hypocrite, which is something that I fell for myself a long time ago, unfortunately. So that's about it. And if you have any questions, don't ask. And if you want to ask questions, don't ask. And if you don't have any questions, don't ask, but ask someone else because I'm not the person who you get to ask questions. And I like to make a disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a scientist. I am not an architect. I'm only a person who got a bachelor degree in English who likes to speak on camera. I don't give medical advice. This is all for entertainment purposes only. I don't condone drugs. I don't condone alcohol. I don't condone eating illegal stuff. Only practice things with the advice of your doctor. And if you don't want to include your doctor into the conversation, then I'm sorry, you're a flipping idiot, or maybe you're just not financially stable, which is unfortunate for you, and I feel sad. So thank you very much, and I will see you later.